Dennis DeMarino, thank you for coming on, the
Thank you.
15-minute founder. As you can tell, we got to learn everything about you in 15 minutes. So I like to cut the fluff
Okay.
and jump right in. I got to start with one of my favorite tweets from you.
Sure.
I knew the garden was going to grow. I was planting seeds daily. Now, some people might say, okay, like cool analogy. He was planting seeds daily. You planted seeds for 436 days, documenting in public
Yep.
a journey going 0 to 1 million.
Yep.
Why did you decide to do that challenge?
So first off, thank you for having me, bro. I'm super excited to be here. This is awesome, man. This really is awesome. So to address the tweet first, it's funny you made that correlation. That tweet kind of stemmed from that whole journey of documenting in public. So, I was in ecom. And then what I realized was like a lot of the guys in ecom that you look up to, the guys who came before you, they all were doing the personal brand thing. I kind of was attracted to that lore of like, wow, these guys are good at business and they're kind of well known. Like, the masculine imperative to just want some type of status. But I wasn't successful enough to really start giving advice. Like I couldn't make short form or long form on like things to do because I didn't have enough results. So I decided, let me just talk about what I'm doing. Like just this is it. But this is kind of funny. I didn't even want to do video content because I was like, I felt like it was almost like mass imposter syndrome. I was like, dude, I don't even know if I'm like legit to do this. Like, am I good enough? Do I even have results to do this? So I said, let me just go on Twitter and I'll just use it as a notebook. And I didn't care who saw it. And I just wrote every day for the entire journey of one of the businesses I was building. And it slowly started to pick up. And I was never, ever writing the posts hoping like, dude, this one's gonna crush. It was just a lot of the tweets on there are just me losing badly, but I just kept putting it out there because I was like, this is it. This is what I'm doing. And to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever shared this. Part of the reason I did that was because subconsciously I was hoping to get help out of it. I knew that if I was kind of super vulnerable, like, guys, I'm stuck with XYZ problem, somewhere in the ether, somebody would come along who kind of saw that problem and will be able to kind of like bounce an idea my way. I wasn't looking for handouts, but I know that, the internet's a crazy place and a lot of people have done a lot of things. And when you're new in business, you run into problems you don't even have an idea how to solve. So I knew that if I approached it in a very honest and authentic way, there could be a potential for, to get past some problems with the help of other people. So I was just as transparent as possible. And I put all my losses out there, bad losses, continuous losses, and it's all out there, man. And it was 436 days, a little over a year and change.
Damn. What were the results?
As far as
was it worth it?
Yeah, it was definitely worth it because I got in the rhythm of like holding myself accountable because when you say it on the outside, like, oh, you tweeted for that long, people understand it's hard, but like you have to work every day because you have to have something to tweet about. You can't just tweet like took the day off. So like I worked every single day relentlessly all day because I also knew that at the end of the day, I was going to make a post about what I did. And I didn't want to feel like I was just like, oh, took the day off, took a chill day. Because I was like, then you're not really grinding. So it kind of held me accountable to work, regardless of like what other things might have came with it beneficially, whether that's connections or different resources I got exposed to down the line. It was really good at holding me accountable because every day I was like, I got to make this post. So I have to do something. Even if it was like I lost money or even if it was just a small move or a small input, something had to be done. So it really was beneficial in keeping me accountable, working every single day and knowing I was working every day because as you know, sometimes in business, when you're really grinding, the days kind of merge and it's just like this blur. So I was able to look back at the end of the week, like, yo, what did I do? And it was kind of like this notebook, but it was public. So it was cool.
What I love is you were documenting, not creating. You're literally just documenting what you do, putting yourself out there. Closed mouths don't get fed.
Yep.
And if you put yourself out in the ether, usually good things happen. I want to get some alpha here though, because you went from 0 to 1 million.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, that's the dream, let alone 1 million, maybe even making their first dollar online.
Yeah.
So can we actually go through that journey?
Sure.
Like what was your strategy or the playbook to go 0 to 1 million? Maybe we can talk about how did you make the first sale or get to the first 1,000?
Sure. Yeah. And that's a good point that you make because as I go through this, I will explain the way you go from like 0 to first sale is not the way you're going to get to like first sale to 5K. And then 5K isn't usually what you're going to do to get to like 75K. The strategy will change as you start to grow because certain things are only good for certain levels.
That's perfect. Let's go level by level.
Yeah.
So 0 to first sale.
Yeah. So 0 to first sale, I was trying anything and everything. I just wanted to see the notification I needed proof that this was going to work. So at this point, to give you context, I'm in college. I just stopped playing sports and now I'm working 2 minimum wage jobs at the same time, which would later turn into a third one at the same time. So I'm working these jobs and I knew at that point, I was like, okay, like at the speed of which, because those jobs were paying bi-weekly, I was like, at the speed of which the money's coming in, I'm never going to be, even if you save the whole entire check, I'm never going to be able to get out of this. Like I'm never going to be able to get out of this situation of like, I don't have money to basically do anything. So I knew I was like, okay, I need to figure out another way, which is what led me to Ecom. Now, because of that, in the beginning, I just wanted to quit the jobs. I just wanted to quit. I wanted to quit these jobs because anybody who's ever worked a minimum wage job, they build character, but like it's one of those things, especially when you're in college. And I was working, like I worked at the school. So I had like this job at kind of like the admissions office type thing. And then I worked at GNC, the supplement shop, and it was in the college town. So it's like a little bit, I'm a very confident person, but it's still a little bit like, you know, almost humiliating in a way when you see everybody from school and you're like back there like all day, like working. So I was like, okay, I got to quit this job. But I didn't have any real proof that Ecom worked. I didn't know, like I wasn't exposed to the whole guru culture. I didn't really know if this was real or not. So in the beginning, I was just hunting for validation that this worked. So this is something that's crucial. I said, and I have it written down actually in a notebook somewhere in my apartment, is when I started, I was going to do this for 1 year straight. Regardless of what happened, we were in for 12 months. That was my approach. I was like, okay, I got to commit for 12 months. If I didn't make money after 12 months, I was going to quit. But I said, you know what? I'm going to go in for 12 months. And then at that point, mentally, I was prepared to grind and I was prepared to lose. I knew I was going to lose at first. I didn't go into it with the mentality of like, I need fast money. I just needed validation that it worked. So in the beginning, typical Ecom fashion, I'm just jumping from like toy to toy. Like I'm trying to sell toys on the internet because that's what people are saying it works. And these are stupid toys like party toys and like gag gifts.
And are you documenting from this is day 0?
So yeah, so I'll explain how this kind of bleeds into the documenting.
Okay.
So like I was documenting internally in the very beginning
Gotcha.
of this. In the very beginning of this, I was documenting it all internally. And there's a lot of video stuff that's still unreleased of like me really grinding it out. So I'm looking at different toys and different trending items that don't really have any value or benefit. But that's at the time, the information I was finding on the internet. No mentors, no help, just me in the internet. But like I said, with the minimum wage jobs, I could only test so many products because I didn't have money coming in really. Like I needed that money to kind of live my life as much as I could and then keep some of it for emergency and then test products with the rest of it. And when you're running paid ads, it can get tricky. So what I started to realize was like, instead of becoming a great marketer, I can lean on the product more if I can find things that are visually appealing on camera. This is something that started to click for me early because when you first start, you're not that good of a marketer, but that doesn't mean you can't sell things. You see, the internet and short form content is built on this visual appeal and impulses and things like that. So although that might not be the play for a long-term brand, if I just want to get something to move, I can find things that have a strong visual appeal that I can lean on. And that's where I started to realize, okay, maybe instead of me trying to be like this master marketer, I was dumb and I didn't really know what I was doing, but like I felt like I was like really cooking something up and these were like terrible ideas. I was like, okay, let me just try and find things that were already kind of like visually attractive on camera, short form style content. So what I started doing was looking for things that had like transformations. That's what I was like, that was like my mindset was like, what has a transformation? People love a good transformation, whether it's like from dirty to clean or fat to fit or like, you know, acne to no acne. People love that stuff. Like that idea of like this thing created this transformation. So actually the first product that I ever got a sale on that ever made me revenue was like one of those electric lint rollers that you like rub it on your clothes. Yeah. And I the video that worked was it was like somebody's pants with like the little lint balls on them and then the transformation of like of like the lint roller going over it, and then it comes out smooth. Now, obviously, this is a dumb product, but like the idea made sense. And this is what started to click. I was like, the idea of the transformation. I didn't really need any marketing for that. I'd put together a halfway decent site, which looking back probably wasn't good, but it was the principle of like, oh, you don't have to be that good at marketing yet if you can lean on the product, something that is going to do the heavy lifting for you because it's visually appealing. When somebody sees a product that has strong visual appeal, they halfway made the decision in their mind if they're going to buy it or not. You just have to not mess it up. So that was how I got my first dollar online. Was I was testing products and I was struggling. And to be exact, it took me 4 months from testing products live to get one sale. One sale took me 4 months. So I wasn't one of those guys that like got it. I was really grinding.
Do you know how much you spent on ads over that time?
I would have to say around like 2,000 maybe if I had to guess. Like I was playing conservative, man, cutting things off quick. I really didn't have much room to work with. And yeah, it took me 4 months to get one sale. And then from there, that product wasn't even like a winner. It made some sales, but it didn't get me anywhere as far as like profit. Then it took me another 2 months to get something actually profitable. 37 products in total from
Holy crap.
start to winner. It took me 37 products in total from start to winner.
Damn.
Yep.
You know, it's like you see the tip of the iceberg is like, 0 to 1 million, but
Yeah.
not many people hear like the 37 or the 6 months it took.
Yeah.
How did you decide up front, I'm just going to stick with it for a year? Because I think that you like kind of glossed over that line, but to me, that's maybe the most important thing because you were like, wait a second, you like baked in this 6 months of things not working.
Yeah.
And where did that come from?
So the commitment to go for a year was actually because my logic was that I knew guaranteed I had about a 2-month learning curve. Now, I quickly found out that it's much longer than a 2-month learning curve. But in my mind, that was what I estimated. I was like, about 2 months to get things figured out. And my logic was like, if I keep switching businesses, I have to start this 2 months over. That was what I thought. I was like, I'm going to have to keep doing this. There's no way I'm going to get good at anything, no matter what business it is. Sure, some might be easier than others, but either way, you have to go through that initial learning curve. I just didn't want to keep doing that. It was, to this day, the hardest part of all of this is that initial learning curve. And I was like, you know what, if I start this and I can get the efforts to compound, I can at least get out of this phase. Then I'll be like, okay, I don't have any money, but at least I know what I'm doing. Now it's like, I got to get good. But I didn't want to keep doing that phase. So I was like, okay,
Gotcha.
I'll stick with it for a year and I'll see what happens. And the beauty of this, in a sense, was that those minimum wage jobs, obviously they weren't fun or anything, but they were able to like pay the important things I had to pay, like bills or whatever. So I could afford, in a sense, to lose. Like I could afford to burn this cash and burn this time because I wasn't reliant on this to like survive. I didn't need to make money in ecom to survive at that point. So that was like my commitment. I was like, listen, I know that I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to go through this period. And another thing also that I don't want to miss is that during this commitment of the 12 months, like I touched on briefly early, was I was in college. And one of my goals that was like an anchor in me was I just didn't want to have to find a job after college. And we can touch on this if you want. I wasn't one of those like, oh, I won't work for anybody else. I don't do the 9 to 5. It wasn't that. I just didn't want to have that like pressure because like I touched on earlier, I worked in the admissions office. And what I did was I would take calls for people who like were alumni of the school and couldn't find work, or like seniors who couldn't find jobs. And it was this like fear and panic. And I was the one on the phones all day. And I heard it all day, just this fear of like, my parents need me to get a job and I don't have a job and I need work. And I was like, I just don't want to do that. If I can just pay my bills with this by the time school ends, I'll be good. I'll figure it out from there. Because I knew that if I had to get a job, it was going to get really hard because then I was going to be working the full day and I wasn't going to have much time to do this. So like, I was really committed to just not having to go and find a job and just at least get clarity of thought on this. And it allowed me to say, you know what, 12 months, let's just focus on it.
Damn, I love the focus. I think that just helps. That makes that, I'm guessing there were days when you're like, what's the point? But you knew your why, you knew where you're heading. You knew like, I guess there's a pain aspect of, I don't want to be in that painful situation.
For sure.
It's like, let's suffer this short-term pain, if you will.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, okay, 37 products, 4 months to first sale, but then even that wasn't profitable, another 2 months.
Yep.
Did that take you to the 5K, to the 75K, or what point did that take you to?
Yeah, so the first sale, that product took me to like 5 to 600 in revenue.
Okay.
So at that point, my belief that this model worked was validated. I knew this worked. And that was a $600 in revenue in a month, unprofitable.
What product was this?
This was the lint roller.
Okay.
So at the lint roller, I was like, this works.
Okay.
I'm not good, but this works.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. And at this point, I'm slowly starting to get into like free communities. I'm starting to pop into free Discords. I didn't have money to join programs, but I was popping into free Discords, and I'm starting to like see that there's this culture behind this. There's like this little ecosystem on the internet of people who do this stuff. So then from there, 2 months goes by and I get my first like real winner. And now this is the thing. I would say I'm very financially responsible. Truthfully, I would say that I don't spend money on dumb things unless I, account for it. It's calculated decision, but I always had this desire to, like be fly. Like I always had this like desire in me. I think it was because I grew up playing sports and like basketball specifically. That culture is like the guys you used to see sitting courtside at the game, like they come, they got their jewelry on, like whether that's a stupid thing to look at or not, that was what I was looking at. So I always was like, okay, like that's a cool life. The reason why I say that is because then when I get my first winner, I make $6,000 in a month. And that $6,000 was profit in a month. I felt like I was a millionaire. Like I felt like I'm out of here. And I'm also in college. So like I'm working in these jobs. My coworkers don't know what I'm doing. I don't talk about it. I feel like I literally am making millions of dollars because I'm making like 400, 500 bucks a day on my phone. And then I went to the Newberry Street in Boston, and I spent like $2,000 on Cartier glasses. And it was like dumb because it was like my only $6,000, and like I totally should have spent it on ads, and like I could have grown the business. But I went down there and I bought the glasses, I put them on, and I walked out with like a thin bank balance, but I felt like a gazillion dollars. I mean, I felt like the man, bro. I felt like the man. And I was like,
you still have the glasses?
Yeah, I don't have mommy, but I still have them.
Okay.
I'll definitely still have them. Those are like a trophy, bro. Those are like a trophy for me. So at that point, I got these glasses on. I'm walking through campus. I'm like, yo, I'm him. Like I'm him. I gotta be him. And I'm looking around and like I'm not outwardly saying like, yo, I made so much money. I wasn't telling anybody. I was just on my computer in like this fake reality of myself where I was just alone all day on my computer grinding and I wasn't saying anything. But at that point, that was the point. The 6K month, my first profitable month, 6K, that was the moment of no return of like, I will never not do this. That was it right there. I was like, I'm going to ride this as long as possible, because when you start to get the ads to go and you start to understand the model, it's a lot of work, of course, but you do get there's a little bit of leverage, I guess, that you get where once the ads are spending and you're converting, it's kind of just like a little bit of management and you can kind of back off a little bit. So I remember going like to the gym and money's coming in. I'm going to the grocery store and money's coming in, and I'm going out and money's coming in, and I'm like, hold on, I'm out of here. Like I'm out of here. And it's only like $300-400 at the time. And then my parents didn't know, my friends didn't know. It was just me. But in my mind, I was like, it's over. Like I'm millions. I was expecting millions. Like this is the way my mind was. But yeah, so that was 6 months in. And the cool thing about it though, all jokes aside, was that 6K that I made recovered everything I lost. So I felt like at least at this point I was back to zero, truthfully.
Yep.
I felt like I was back to zero. It's like, you know what, man, like even though I bought the glasses, which, you could argue was stupid, I was at least back to zero on the board, on paper. I recovered my lost ad spend. I recovered, setup fees, software fees, all that stuff. And I felt like, okay, I'm back to zero now. I'm back here. Like it almost felt like a boxing match and I just won a round. It's like, okay, like, all right, like we're still here. We're in it, and that was kind of the feeling that I had at that point.
Okay. How did you then go from that's first 6K month?
Yeah.
What would you say is the next milestone? 75K or 100K?
50.
50,
So
okay.
so it kind of went 6 to 18 to 24.
Yep.
And then from 24 to like 58, from 58 to like 74-ish. And then this is crazy, from 74 to like 5.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'll talk about that in a second. So that kind of, I dropped all the way back down. I thought I was done. And then got back on track, 530, and then I end up hitting 100, my first 6-figure month, about 5 months from the 6K month. So it was like a journey, man. Was how that went. And then, things at that point, I had understood a lot of things that gave me clarity from a business perspective. What I realize now that I didn't realize then, but this was the truth, was like I was getting really good at marketing. I was not getting good at business. I knew how to get customers. I didn't know how to properly take care of them. I didn't know how to manage customer service. I didn't know how to make sure fulfillment was on point. I didn't know how to make sure products were getting shipped that were high quality. I didn't know how to make sure that product quality was good. I just knew how to get customers. So what I was starting to see happening was I was like, this, I'm building on a house of cards. This is what I was starting to realize. I was like, I'm building on a house of cards, but I just didn't want to go back to like the empty bank balance. So, you know, I started to, scale. And the reason why I said I went from like a 74K month to a 5K month was that my ads started getting reported. My ads were getting reported because I was making, I wouldn't say they were false claims, even though that's kind of like what TikTok and Meta say, like just on the policy side. They were aggressive claims. They were stretched.
Can you give an example of one?
Yeah, so like let's say a product is telling you you're going to make a transformation. And realistically, if you use the product properly and you do what it says it's supposed to do, you'll probably get that transformation in about 6 weeks. I would say about 30 days. I would say about 14 days. The foundation was true,
Yep.
but the timeline wasn't
Gotcha.
there. And because of that, people would flag it. People would leave, like negative comments. People would, and then this is where I started realizing that like your ad accounts can get suspended. So then you go from like you're running all these ads, you're doing things, and then boom, you get your ad account suspended, and then you go back down. And along that journey, things that I also didn't realize was like having business credit cards. So when you're scaling ads and running a business in general through a business checking, when you don't have money, you're bottoming out the account because you got to fulfill all your orders and pay off your Amex and then wait for the new money to come in. So like I couldn't run the business properly then again because I was bottoming out my checkings because I had to fulfill all these things. So this is when I started to realize like there's no way this is the proper way to run a business. I knew how to, I had really good clarity on what it took to get customers from cold traffic to buy your stuff, but I did not understand at that point like what it took to run a real business.
What was the biggest unlock or learning that made you better at the marketing side, cold traffic to customer? Like let's say someone's listening and like I'm stuck. I'm like trying product after product, it's not working. You mentioned the visual appeal.
Yeah.
What would you teach someone? Like I know there's no shortcut or hack,
Yeah,
but
sure.
what's like the lowest hanging fruit to actually solve that?
Sure. So I'm going to answer this in 2 parts.
Sure.
I'm going to answer this in 2 parts. So what actually ended up happening, what really kind of was pivotal for me was like after my first, I want to say 2 6-figure months plus all of the months before that. So at this point I had some money. I end up running into some problems where I lose it all. So I lose everything, like bank balance back to 0.
Whoa.
Ego shattered. Everything goes back to completely 0. And basically what happened was my business, my product, everything was cool. It was like I wasn't breaking any rules. Sure, a couple exaggerated claims
Sure.
on the ads, but nothing extreme, nothing like violating anything. I didn't understand also at this point how competitive ecom was. So here's what happened. This is something to this day that kind of still like it kind of gets me a little bit. So I get an email. This is before I had like my full customer support team hired out. So I was still checking the business emails. And I get an email from this address basically saying like that they had the patent on the product that I was selling. And they were like, you can't sell this product. We have the patent. Everything must be taken down or we're going to pursue, I still remember, extensive legal action. That's what they said. And they wrote this whole thing with all this jargon. And I'm in my apartment. I'm at college. I'm thinking I have all this money. And like, I kind of panicked in the sense I was like, shit, man, like, I don't want this to get bad quick. So I shut everything down. Like I turned off my ads. I turned the website, I pulled the website down. I unlisted the product. But here's the problem. You can't do that when you have 1,000 orders on transit. People are going to go check their orders. They want tracking. People want to know what's going on. And now it just says page not found, error. It was chargeback galore.
Oh, man.
It was just chargebacks. And what people don't know, when you get a chargeback, which is when the customer calls the bank and says like this wasn't a purchase or whatever, you actually get charged a fee on top of the product cost. So like if someone charges back on a $30 product, you owe $15 for the chargeback fee. So I'm getting rinsed and I don't know what to do because I'm like, I can't go relaunch this. I'm gonna get sued. The reason why I said it grinds my gears is because as I got a little bit far removed, I realized it was fake.
Oh,
it was a fake email and it was competition. It wasn't even a real legal email address. There was no legal firm behind that. It was just some dude.
How'd you learn that?
I looked at the Gmail that they put, and I put in the Gmail, the company at the end of the Gmail, and there was no company tied to it. And then the address on the signature was just a registered agent in like
Dang.
Wyoming. And I was like, oh my God. And I didn't realize that's like 2 months later. I was like, wow, like I got screwed. And that happened, and that lasted like 45 days where I didn't know what to do. Because this is the thing where it was really pivotal for me. I was still trying to test products, but I didn't want to test too much because I didn't know how much more chargebacks I was going to have to pay for. And there was only so much money that I had to where it was like, if all these people charge back, I'm going to have to pay a boatload of money. So I was like, I kind of got to keep cash. I can't risk testing more stuff on ads. I don't know how bad this can get. And I'm way more versed now, but I didn't know if like Shopify sends you to collections. Like I don't know
Damn.
if like if you bankrupt your account, I don't know how that works. So I'm trying to keep cash on hand because, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. All of this time, I'm taking 5 classes in person. So I'm like taking a biology exam while like thinking I'm getting sued, while like also going bankrupt, while also like having massive Amex bills that like can't really get paid. All of this is kind of happening at the same time where I'm like really in college taking these classes at my apartment, thinking that like I'm getting destroyed. So it was a very stressful time, and the reason why I wanted to give you that context was because that was when I really, really, really realized I was good, but had to get really good at getting customers because I needed to get the show back on the road. And now this is kind of something that was good and bad for me because, like I said, I didn't really know how to run a business properly, but I knew how to get customers. I leaned more into that now to get back. So I wasn't even thinking, let me rebuild the great business. I was like, I need to make money right now and fix this because this is going south quickly. This is bad. And the problem was also at this point, because that was kind of like an eight, that was like a year timeline we kind of ran through. I was just, I was documenting on the internet. I'm posting stuff. I'm tweeting at this point. The people who don't know ecom, just like hometown people, uh, adults you grew up around, they're starting to look at you as like this guy who like is successful in certain things and like is doing well for himself while I'm actually getting decimated in real time. So now I'm at this like disconnect between like social and like my real life because like I started to go around like my friends, or I started to go around like my hometown, my parents, and like it was a lot of questions and it was a lot of like applause, but like they're kind of skeptical, but they're like, wow, like how are you doing this? And like they're interested in my finances while I'm actually getting wrecked in real time. And like my bank is literally on zero. I'm probably overdrafting at this point. Amex is calling me, figuring out like what's going on because you just went all these months of paying off your balance. Now all of a sudden you're about to go into debt. And I didn't tell anybody a thing. I didn't tell anybody a thing. I just was like, yeah, man, I don't know. I'm just trying this stuff online. I don't really know what's going on. And like I would tweet. Tweeting was like my expression to the world, but I never had like formal talks with people. I just like was thugging it out alone. And I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about business, a lot about life during that period because I was like, damn, man, like just like that, it can happen. Because I had good money at that point for like, at least at that point was like a lot of money for me at that point. It was like a lot of money. So I was like, damn, man, like I'm cooking right now. Like I'm cooking. I'm not gonna have to get a job after school. Like I'm gonna be able to build this. We're gonna go big. And then in a 10-day swing, you're basically bankrupt. And bankrupt with debt because your business is heavily reliant on credit at this point. I'm running ads on credit. I'm fulfilling orders on credit. Like I got subscription fees that get high because usage rates and all these things people don't talk about. And my whole business just got taken down from the internet completely. And I was like, wow, this is frightening. Like this is really intense. And because of that, I really dove deep into direct response and just marketing in general. And I was just like, I was already kind of a reader at that point, but I started pummeling through books and pummeling through videos. And I was like, yo, this is like a by any means mission. Like, I have to fix this. And I wasn't even thinking about like, oh, this is the comeback. I'm going to get rich this time. I was like, I need to stop because if I don't fix this, this is going to go bad. This is going to go bad. And, thankfully, me going to college, I wasn't on student loans or anything like that. But I was like, dude, I'm gonna get myself into debt. Like I went to college debt free. I'm gonna get myself into debt. And it's kind of funny I say that, and then I'll answer the second part of the question. This is just context so that you see where I'm going with this. Is that this whole time, my mother, who is like to this day still not like totally on board with this whole thing, she's like in my ear. She doesn't understand ecom at all, but she's like in my ear, like whatever you do, don't get in debt. You better not get in debt. Meanwhile, I'm like in debt at this time, like on the verge of like catastrophe. She's like, you better not get in debt, whatever you do. And I'm like, I'm like, yeah, no, I would never. That could never happen to me, Ma. Like, you don't understand. I'm not that type. I'm like literally on the verge of like serious debt, and it was just wild, man. It was wild. So now pivoting to answer that question, like, what are some things that I can say that really help is when you start to realize when you need to make money from a direct response marketing perspective, you have to pay attention to audiences. The game is about audiences, at least in my opinion, because I'm not a guy who's going to create my own product, especially not at that point. I'm not a guy who is going to try and build something that's never been done before. But what I did realize was that a lot of products that were doing well were just doing well on one specific audience to one specific demographic. So I started realizing like, if this product's already selling here and these people like it and they're buying it, why hasn't anybody shown these people? And now these people could be a different gender, they could be a different age, could be a different country, but why isn't anybody showing them? I'll just do that. I'll just show them.
Mm.
And that was like my first real, like, okay, wow. And like one of the simple things, like the bare minimum that I started doing was just I would take products that people were selling to women, specifically women's clothing and jewelry, and then I would make my ads all tailored to men, saying that you would be the best husband or boyfriend or fiance if you bought this as a gift. You should buy
Whoa.
this for them. So all those ads that people are running, blasting it out to the female shopping demographic, where you're gonna have to compete with super high CPMS. I just started trying to tailor stuff like that to the opposite gender. And then you start playing into like the male ego of like, do you want to be the best boyfriend? You can be the best husband. Like, you should buy this for her. Like, this is going to make her super happy. This is going to bring up her emotions. It could like lead to a reward for you. And I just was like, well, the product already works because clearly women like this. Clearly everyone's buying this. All these people are selling it to women. Why don't I just do that? And then that kind of led to like certain products where I was like, okay, well, people are crushing it in the US. Like, what about Australia? What about United Kingdom? What about New Zealand? And, I started to realize like, okay, this game is really about audiences because once a product is proven, it's basically proven forever, right? Like if somebody starts selling, like for example, if you go to the store to go buy toothpaste, right? And you're in Walgreens to go buy toothpaste, there's hundreds of toothpaste there. Some of them are for whitening, some of them are for breath, some of them are for, sensitivity, fluoride. But the toothpaste itself, that clearly works. We know that that's a thing that people buy. So then you just have to figure out who you can tailor that to. Is it people with bad gums? Is it people with bad teeth? Is it people with bad breath? Is it people with, insecurity of yellow teeth? I don't need to compete with toothpaste as a whole. I just need to figure out what one piece of that audience is. And that's what I started to really get good at was like, instead of doing like product research, it was just like, oh, okay, that's what these people are selling right here. Well, who are they selling it to? Oh, they're selling it to 18 to 25-year-old women. Oh, well, why don't we just sell it to grandmothers and say grandmothers can buy it for their grandchildren? We'll just market to them and then we'll just tailor the audience. I don't even have to remake the product or even remake the functionality. I'll just sell it to new people.
Very
And that's
cool.
where I started to realize like, oh, you can do more with less, for lack of better terms, where you don't have to be the most innovative, but you have to be creative with the sense of, who can you tailor this to? And that was the first real sign of like, okay, this is like, I'm starting to get this direct response stuff. I understand now what's going on with this whole, how are we going to get people to buy products, that don't know who we are and don't know what we're about and that whole thing.
Thank you. That was a masterclass. I also do
Thank you.
appreciate how you took the time to share that context. And
Yeah,
you called it context, but I appreciate you sharing
sure.
candidly or how vulnerable you were in that position. And
Absolutely, man.
even just that you were describing like, being at those events, people asking you, I kind of felt the awkwardness of it too. Where
Yeah,
like you're,
man.
you're, you have this internal or external facade, or it feels like the
Yeah.
facade, then there's the internal too. And you were doing that through college too. So
Yes.
as I hear that, it's like, there's no excuses. Like
Yeah.
if it matters, you'll make the time.
100%.
And you very much did that. So I appreciate you just being real there because I think a lot of people from the outside, before I started talking to you right now, you see 0 to 1, you're like, oh,
Yeah,
yeah, you got to 1 million. You don't
exactly.
realize, damn, you don't sometimes hit rock bottom. You hit rock bottom and get dragged along the bottom too.
Absolutely, man. I mean, you're waking up and you're going to class in the morning, and then I'm going to work a desk job at college. And then after the desk job, I'd go to the gym. And then after the gym, I'd work the night shift at GNC. And then when GNC would close, I would work from like 9 to 2 in the morning for Ecom. And I would try to get, different times where I can get my homework in. Sometimes you do homework instead of going to the gym. And that was like my slot for a long time was I had to just like work through the night. And it wasn't because I was like trying to be Clark Kent. It was just like that was the only time of the day I had. I had class, I had 2 jobs, I had schoolwork, I was trying to go to the gym, and I was making this stuff all this stuff happen through the middle of the night. And that was like you said, if you're committed, you'll find time. Like if you're serious about it, you'll find the time. And I literally found the time. Like that's what I did. I found the time within the day to make it happen.
I respect the drive. I
Appreciate it.
want to ask you a couple now quick hits to
Yeah,
finish up.
man.
So
Let's do it.
this is actually somewhat related to that. You said passive income is synonymous with lazy idiot. Example, hey bro, can you help me make some passive income? Translation, hey bro, can you help me? I'm a lazy idiot. You don't sound lazy whatsoever. You sound you found the time, but the term passive income is a common term. So
Yeah.
can you unpack that? What does hey bro, can you help me make some passive income actually means hey bro, can you help me? I'm a lazy idiot. Why is passive income synonymous with lazy idiot?
Yeah, that's a great tweet, man. Wow.
Who said that?
Yeah. Passive income is one of the phrases that is crippling the work ethic of this generation. You see, I can answer this in 2 ways, but the easiest way to draw the most clear-cut answer is that if you look back at the pre-internet generation of people who work, everybody understood that the accumulation of finance was attached to physical work. And if you go, like I said, pre-internet, that was physical labor for the most part. Most people were working labor jobs before the internet, factories, farms, coal mines, oil rigs, whatever the case may be. And everybody as a society understood that to acquire finance were, called for physical labor. And then our generation comes along and is like, how do I do this without working at all? I don't want to do physical labor. I don't want to work, period. How do I get this result? But I don't want to work at all. And what happened was I just started to see so many people who never even stepped foot in the ring and was like, "Oh, how can I make some passive income?" I was like, "You clearly don't want to work. So this isn't going to happen anyway. Hence, you're a lazy idiot because you're sitting here and you're talking about how you want to make money. Yeah, you and everybody else, right? Everybody wants to make money, but you've already predetermined in your mind that I will not be working. So work's out of the question. Like that's the frame they're in. How do I make money, but I don't want to work? I don't want to compete, but I do want the benefit. You're a lazy idiot. Like that's the only way to answer because you're lazy because you don't want to work, and you're an idiot because you think that that's reality. So those 2 terms together are synonymous with passive income. You, my friend, are a lazy idiot.
Damn, okay. Like I've never heard that, but that was good.
Thank you.
What that reminds me of is a lot of times people say they want to break the 9 to 5,
Yeah.
but they don't realize it takes a lot of 9 to 9, 6 or 7 days a week to break the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So that's like it takes more work to get to a point
Way more work.
where you then maybe have oh, wait a second, I'm at the gym, I'm getting the notifications.
100%.
I'm out, I'm getting the notifications.
Absolutely.
It took a lot of those 9 to 9s or the 9 to 2 a.m.s in your case.
100%. And I think that's a great point that you make is because most people don't even have the work ethic to work a 9 to 5. They don't even have the work ethic to work a 9 to 5. I couldn't work a 9 to 5. You can't work, period. What people don't understand is the 9 to 5 the path for long, for mass financial gain? Most likely not, right? It's the way the game is constructed. It's very difficult to get very financially ahead. That doesn't mean you can't live comfortable. That doesn't mean you can't get a great job. I'm not anti 9 to 5. I think a lot of people are better off in a 9 to 5. But what people don't understand is that what comes to 9 to 5 is like work every day. You have to show up every day to your job. 1, 2, you have to show up on time, 9 a.m., and you have to work the entire day. And then these people come along and they're like, I don't want to work 9 to 5. I need passive income. It's like, bro, you need to figure out how to work in general. Because another thing people don't understand is like, let's say I get an entry level job at a company or whatever that is, 40K, 50K, right? I'm going to work and it's going to be 9 to 5, but I know that I'll at least get paid, right? Like I'm going to get a check at the end of the week or twice a month from that entry level job. When you start your business, you're working for free. You're literally working for free around the clock. Not even for free, you're paying to work because you're losing money. And then these people come along and they're like, yeah, I really want to make passive income. It was just like, I couldn't find a better way to explain it than you're a lazy idiot because it made so much sense. I was like, oh, this person doesn't even want to work. So they're lazy and they can't even conceptualize the idea that like business or no business, 1099 or W-2, work is required and a lot of it is required. Most of these people can't even work a 9 to 5. Most of these people who say passive income, who aren't making any money, who want to do entrepreneurship, they can't even work a 9 to 5 because they don't have the simple discipline to get up on time and show up to work every day.
Well, I'll just say this. I'm never going to be able to hear the phrase passive income the same way again. So well done. I mean, it was a good explanation. Like I
Yeah,
appreciate you being real too.
absolutely.
I have another question for you.
Yeah,
You've
absolutely.
now become more versed in the space. You're in the discords.
Absolutely.
You're probably maybe some even people now. Hey, like I learned from your journey right now. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
others have gone through this,
Sure.
especially over the 436 days. What would you say is the biggest lie that e-commerce gurus say? The biggest misbelief or thing that's out there, which you're like, you know what? It's not really true.
Wow. That's a awesome question. I have a good one. The work from anywhere. The work from anywhere concept of like, oh, you can work from anywhere in the world. Like you can just pull out your laptop and get to work. Like physically, yes, but your quality of work sucks, your productivity sucks, and you don't really get much done. This whole like I'm gonna travel to Bali and get on the beach with my feet up and I'm just gonna be making tons of money. Like that's not real. That's not a real thing. Like I bought that idea too when I was first starting. This idea of like I can just pull my laptop up and I can work anywhere, anytime. Like physically you can do that, but like you're not getting productive work done. You're not moving the needle forward. You might be able to maintain, but you're not able to like grow. Now, if you have teams and like a lot of employees, it's a little bit different, right? But like when you're in that beginning solopreneur phase where you're just kind of like thugging it out, you need to be in a workspace where it's quiet and you can focus and you have a lot of work to do. A lot of beginners think like, oh, I just want to, I want to work online so I could travel and I could work around the clock and I could work around the world. I mean, and like you are not going to be able to travel in the beginning for a long time because you can't afford to leave. You cannot afford to leave the boat. You can't afford to leave the ship unsteered. And it's a total myth that people use for leads and people use for paid ads and promotion. And it's like, I'm on a beach right now. They pull out their like phone and it's like, look at how much money I made. And it's like, yeah, bro, like you might have gotten sales, but the idea that you're growing your business from like some foreign island in the middle of Asia. Like it's just it's not real. It's not a real thing unless, like I said, the caveat is if you have systems and you have a lot of employees where you have people that are like paid and they're trained and that's different. But like when it's just you and maybe a few VAs, like this idea that you're just going to be floating around the world doing whatever you want is just like a complete fallacy. Your business will crumble quickly from somebody who literally like lived that life. I watched it crumble.
Damn, real answer. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Give me your objective take here.
Sure.
In 2025, if someone is deciding to start a new business,
Yeah.
would you advise them? Would you advise the version of you starting a business today? Let's say you hadn't started yet, but you can come back to start an e-commerce business in shop shipping, or should they start elsewhere? Is e-commerce dead today? Is it the
No.
right place to start, or would you recommend starting there?
It's definitely not dead. I don't really think it can die. It'll evolve. The model will change and the approach will change, especially with AI and things of that nature. But I would say, before I give a straight answer, is it would really be dependent upon what the end game is for you as far as like finances. If the goal for you is to get to like multi 7 and 8 figures, like ecom is a phenomenal vehicle to get there because not just because of the way you can cash flow and the way you can build even, sellable assets, but you get this like Rolodex, this repertoire of skills that allow you to do things that will open up other opportunities for you down the line. You know how to get customers, you know how to run ads on all platforms, you know how to, build out websites, which then leads you into, how to build out like sales pages, you know how to write copy, you know how to, make content because you have to make your own ads at first, can't afford somebody else to do it. And you get this like accumulation of skills that then open up other doors. Like, throughout my career, I've gotten paid decent amounts of money to just run somebody else's ads or manage somebody else's store and help them grow and write or build out somebody else's landing page. These are skills that I learned through ecom, and it allows you, like if I wanted to start an agency right now, I can do it. I'm not saying I'd have the biggest agency, but I have all of the
Yeah.
tools. I know how to get clients, I know how to build a sales page, I know how to get traffic to a funnel and push them through. Like all of those skills came from ecom. So the reason why I love the model is that it is hard and there's a barrier to entry, and this is why everybody can't do it. But you accumulate so many skills along the way where somebody, I've seen this happen before where somebody tries to start ecom and they get good at ads but they can't put the rest of it together. They end up just becoming like a media buyer for somebody else's ecom brand, but you learn that skill. So I would advise them to figure out what the end game is for their career and what they really want their situation to kind of look like. And an end of career is a long frame. I would say like 3 to 5 years. What does that next 3 to 5 look like? If you're willing to grind and you're willing to commit to growth and learning, I think e-commerce is a great way to do it. if you're just looking for like money, like if you just want to like make a decent living, you might not be searching to make, multi-millions. I would say video editing. I would say video editing, honestly. I think it's becoming like one of the most elite skills you can have because everybody's trying to do personal brand now. Everybody's trying to have a channel. You got streamers, you got ecom guys, you got business guys, everybody, and none of these guys want to edit their own videos. If you can come along and edit somebody's long form YouTube video and you know how to like actually make good edits to where it's like engaging and following along and you can clip stuff together, like I have two full-time editors that edit all my stuff for me. Like they're great. It's just a great skill to have. So like if you're like, yo, I just want to make like 5, 8, maybe 10K a month, like I would say even do that. But if you want to build and you want to really get good at business and you want to learn skills and things that'll help you monetize forever, yeah, I would absolutely say, ecom is definitely still a great way to do it. You just got to commit to the learning process. You got to commit to the building, commit to the learning curve, commit to the fact that you're going to lose at first. And if you stay with it, like anybody can do it. And not only can anybody do it, you can always pull yourself out of bad situations with ecom. That's one of the beauties of it.
I love it. Your story demonstrates you can definitely put yourself out.
Absolutely.
Final quick hitters to wrap up here.
Absolutely.
What time do you typically like to go to sleep and wake up?
This is tough. I would say I'm actually not very good at a steady routine of like I go to sleep at this time, I wake up at this time. Typically I'm asleep. I'm usually asleep between like 1:30 and 3:30, and I'm usually up by like 8. That's what I would say. Like I aim to sleep. If I can get like 6.5 to 7-ish, like I'm good. I really get uncomfortable if I wake up past like 8:30. I get a little bit like shit. Um, and I try not to work through the nights anymore like I used to because now that I have more free time as far as like I don't have the college or those jobs, if I'm working all the way through the night, I feel like I probably wasn't that productive during the day. If all of this stuff is backed up till 3 o'clock in the morning, like I must have,
Good learning.
yeah, I must have pissed
Good
away a
learning.
day. You know what
Very
I
good
mean?
learning. Yep. Do you
So
drink coffee or caffeine?
all day.
What do you drink?
I drink a lot of coffee. I like a lot of
How
coffee.
much coffee?
A lot. I would say like 5 to 6 cups a day, but I'm doing larges, so, like, whatever yeah, like, whatever that equivalents to, energy drinks. I try to definitely manage the dosages, though. I try not to blast, like, the 4 or 500 milligrams a day. Like, I know I'm smart enough to know that that's not the answer. I definitely have done it before, but I try to stay around, like, 250 milligrams a day is, like, a good number for me at this point.
Okay. What would you say has been the biggest earthquake book in your life? I call them earthquake books because
Oh, yeah.
after you read them, life just isn't the same.
Yeah.
What's the biggest earthquake
A
book?
Manual for Manifesting Your Dream Life by Eric John Campbell. It's 76 pages long. I recommend that book to everybody. I read a ton of books. This year, I'm probably pacing. I have it written down on my phone, but I'm probably pacing like 21 books this year. Like I read a lot. I try to. A Manual for Manifesting Your Dream Life is a book that I read first 3 years ago. I've probably read it like two or three more times since. It's only 75 pages, 76 pages. It's amazing. It's an amazing book. It's an amazing book because it discusses how the universe is constantly sending you signs of like what you're supposed to be doing and you're just choosing not to like receive the signs like and then you goes into like this idea of the that voice in your head where you're doing wrong when the right answer is clearly in front of you, and the book just talks about like all the signs the universe is thrown at you, universally, whether it might just be something subtle in the environment or something subtle that you see because of a thought, and just how to respond to them and how to receive those signs. It's really a phenomenal book, and it's delivered with like verbiage that's very easily digestible. So anybody can read it. You can read it within a week, 2 weeks. Like it's a great book. I recommend everybody to start with that book. There's a lot of good ones that I've read, man, but that one it comes to top of mind for sure.
That's going on my list.
Absolutely, man.
Final question I have. We're here in New York City,
Yes, sir.
and let's say I could get you a billboard in Times Square.
Wow.
And on the billboard, you can have any message for an aspiring entrepreneur, and it's signed off with your name. What does that billboard say? Someone who is on the fence, they haven't started yet, but they're fired up. They heard you go 0 to 1. They're like, yeah, I get the lows, but I'm ready. I'm committed. What's the message you have for that aspiring entrepreneur on that billboard?
Front end pain will lead to back end pleasure, but front end pleasure will always lead to back end pain. Yeah. That's what I would say. If you take the vices that are given to you up front, you will always feel the consequences in the end. If you confront the pain in the beginning, you will always smell the flowers in the end. If you do that in reverse, you'll get wrecked. because a lot of entrepreneurs, especially people who are just starting out, they are dying for quick money and they're dying to cut corners and they're just dying for any way to just like get around the hard work. And this is why you see so many people like, they flock to Miami after a 10K month with this apartment and then they're gone in 3 months because they took the front end pleasure and now they're dealing with the back end pain. So whenever you look at a situation, it seems painful. Just know that if you can bear the brunt and you can take that front end pain, there's always pleasure on the back end. Pleasure in two forms: one, because of the reward, and two, because you're going to be proud of yourself that you took on the pain the way you took it on, and you didn't fold and you didn't let it get to you. So that's what I would leave for them.
Dennis, we'll finish on that. Thanks for coming on, man. That
Thank
was
you so
dope.
much, my friend. This was amazing.
That was
Thank you so much
awesome.
for
And
having me,
I
man.
can never look at passive income the same way.